Welcome to our Acre Pro buy sell, our Tuesday edition, as it is on goldenblack.com. There have been some changes on goldenblack.com overnight, and we'll get into that a little bit here as well. Want to thank our sponsor. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have our experts in your corner. Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group are your local farmland specialists. With decades of experience in Indiana agriculture, no one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland, your local Acre Pro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185 or talk to your local land expert today. Again, 765-587-3185. All right, this may be the first video you're watching on our new platform at on the On3 Network. Last night we made the transition over there to that. And with change, there's always a little bit of a challenge, even for us, to make sure we know how to administrate things correctly. It's a learning curve, and we're doing that as well. Tom, big football game this week, but I was going to ask you about On3 and all of that, the opportunity to work with Shannon Terry, somebody you worked with back in the day. We're both going to be buying the fact that it's going to be a great thing for goldenblack.com. I don't think we couldn't be more excited about that. But your relationship over the years with Shannon Terry, and what kind of guy in that organization, they know how to get things done.
Yeah, Shannon's a sharp guy, Alan. I got to know him back in, I guess, 2008. Shannon and Bobby Burton and
a
couple other people I know there. Mike Huguenin is one of their national editors I worked with when I was with Rivals, and I worked with Mike at the Sporting News for a long time. I owe Mike Huguenin a big debt of gratitude for a lot of things professionally. I know a few people on the galaxy that know more about college football than Mike, and so I'm really pumped to be, I won't work with Mike that often, but just kind of to be back in his orbit, if you will. So yeah, Shannon's, like you said, he's done this 3 times now, and every site that really has a lot of value seems to be joining up with On3. So we're all, I guess, migrating together, which tells you all you need to know about what others also think of Shannon Terry and the On3 team. So yeah, I'm like you, Alan. We're old. We can be old cranky guys, and we don't like change. We have to learn new things. Wham, right? So we're getting up to speed with the back end of things, constructing stories, embedding links, videos, how to post, you name it. So I'm sure everybody's be patient with us. We'll get there. I'm feeling more comfortable. I'm sure you are too. But enough of our problems and news, right? The Boilermakers, as you said from the top, what a month, buddy. It's all right in front of Purdue, right? 4 games, win all 4. Purdue's in Indianapolis on the first weekend in December playing for the Big Ten championship. I know it's a big ask, but who knows? I mean, it starts obviously Saturday with Iowa. And as all these viewers probably know, Purdue has had a lot of success against Iowa of late. 4-1, Jeff Brom won the last 2. And we all know Iowa's issues this year. So Purdue has its own issues, of course, but still great opportunity out for the Boilers, who are about a 4-point favorite here.
Yeah, interesting. And I'll put one last plug in for the On3. And you're right, Tom. It's change is always a little bit of a thing. But if you are a YouTube subscriber and want to be a subscriber, it's going to cost you a whole $1 for the first year. So all the content, all the Tom Dienhart you can handle for the next year for $1.
We'll pay you $1.
Brian Newbert on down the line. It's the same band. And the good thing about it is, like you said, we're back with the Sean Callahans of the world at Nebraska. The Tom Cakerts eventually at Iowa will be with us, in addition to Chris Ballas and the Michigan folks on down the line. The band is back together, and that's a good thing. All right, yeah, I think this weekend's game, you could build a case. And I guess that'll be my first buy-sell question to you. Biggest home game, most on the line in November in Ross-Ade Stadium. are you buying or sell? This is one of the biggest game in the last 10 years. I think I'm buying that in terms of what's on the line, even despite the fact that Purdue kind of laid an egg at Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think so. Last 10 years for sure. You're just encapsulating Hazel and Hope, and the first
that's true.
years of Brom. He had some big November games. He had to win. He had to beat IU a few times to get bowl eligible, right?
That's correct.
In IU, and then 2018 games at IU. But yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I would agree. I don't know if it's the biggest since the IU game in 2000. You could offer.
I think it's the biggest since you're right. You're absolutely right. You can't minimize the Indiana games because there were a lot on the line for bowl games when Jeff Brom had to win in 17 and 18 to get to bowls with a 6-6 record. I would argue it was the Iowa game in 2003 with as much on the line. Of course, Purdue, I think Iowa was ranked 10th in the country. Purdue gets out to a 27-0 win, wins 27-14. Now, Purdue lost the next week in a heartbreaker. Joe Tiller called it his toughest loss ever the next week at Ohio State, and I think it was a 16-13 overtime loss. So I think you're right. I think in the last 10 years, it's pretty much a no-brainer. It's hard, Tom, when you look at it and say, because kind of on the heels of the Wisconsin game, and Purdue did not play well in that one back on the 24th of October. The 22nd of October. But it is now with a couple weeks of in between, it is going to be a huge game in front of a sellout crowd at noon. And that is going to make it a huge one. All right. Now, you look at Iowa. The Hawkeyes did give up 54 points to Ohio State, but that was a lot of a misnomer. They actually really defended Ohio State pretty well. Game got out of hand late. We're not gamblers, but we like to talk about let's talk about the big picture. One would expect, I think with that one, that 20 point, 20, I think seems like first one to 21 wins. Will you buy or sell over under 40 points in this game? I don't even know what the over under is, but it's can't be a whole lot higher than that.
40 points over under.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna buy that. I think it's gonna go beyond that. I do. I think nothing crazy, maybe 5 or 10 points higher, maybe 50. For Purdue's sake, I guess if they want to win, I have a hard time thinking they're going to have a good chance of winning a real low scoring game. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, I guess I'm going to sell that, Alan. And I know the Iowa's defense is good. I know Purdue's last time we saw them in Madison, they weren't so hot offensively, but I think Purdue's going to have some chances here. Brom always finds matchups he can exploit, right, against this Iowa team. And Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator at Iowa, confounds us all by failing to seemingly adjust to what Brom has figured out. And we saw David Bell have heydays against this defense. Anthony Mahungu back in 2017. A lot of success. So it's a mystery to a lot of people what paralyzes Phil Parker when he plays Jeff Brom. But I think we're going to see a few more points. So yeah, again, Iowa, 33 points last week, Alan, their best effort of the year. That was against a moribund Northwestern team. But you know what? I still think they got to be licking their chops playing this Purdue secondary. We can talk about that later. It's not like they've actually distinguished themselves. So maybe Iowa thinks they can have some success against this Purdue defense throwing the football.
Yeah. And you're right. The over-under actually 42.5. So we're not being too outrageous with that, in terms of those numbers. It does figure to be that game. And you look at even Purdue's win last year, what was it, 24-7, still was a 31 point. The only game that really was a high offensive affair was during this stretch was the 2018 game. What was it, final 38-36 or whatever the final was in that game?
Yeah,
of course, the last second field goal by Spencer. I'm drawing a blank.
Spencer Evans.
Spencer Evans nails the field goal and Purdue wins that one. And of course, that game ended up being critical to Purdue's chances to making a bowl, even after the Boilermakers beat Ohio State a couple of weeks earlier. So, and that was a key November win against the Hawkeyes. But I do think that over-under wise, I'm with you. I think it'll be a little bit over. You wonder what from that standpoint, the early look on the weather, and I don't think we're going to have any issues with that. That will be a thing that you're going to have a chance to have an offensive enough game. Now, those noon games, we haven't had one of those in a while, and that's going to be, maybe sometimes you wonder, are the teams awake when they play? Of course, it's usually a factor when you have West Coast teams are switching time zones, all those kind of things. So Purdue did play well in its noon win over Minnesota, and the weather's supposed to be in the 70s, believe it or not, in Ross-Ade Stadium, at least the high on Saturday, chance of rain at this point in time. So not looking too far down the road. Okay, Purdue receivers, Charlie Jones playing against his former teammate, buying or selling. We'll talk about yards. Does he have a handshake for Kirk Ferentz after the game? How many guys will he buy? Will he shake the hands of more than 10 Iowa Hawkeyes after the game? Impossible to count, I know, and I don't think there's really any animosity necessarily. I'm sure there's going to be competitive animosity when Tyrone Tracy and Charlie Jones take the field, but it's kind of the way of the world, as Jeff Brom talked about.
Talking to Tom Kakert for the opponent view, he told me there's some players in that Iowa secondary looking forward to playing Charlie Jones.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's the case.
I think the one thing that rubbed him the wrong way was when he left so late in the process, I guess, in late May, June, went through spring football at Iowa, sort of pledges allegiance there, and then boom, he's gone. And I think they felt jilted, some of the players. We know the fan base is hot still. So I do think, though, once the game is over, there's got to be still a lot of love among that Iowa roster for Charlie Jones. I think he'll be warmly received. And but boy, it's come game time, from first to fourth quarter, I'm sure there's going to be some guys looking to give old Charlie a hello kiss, if you will. I'm sure Charlie expects it. And how he's going to be jacked out of his mind, Alan. I would be, and he's going to be jacked out of his mind. It's going to be interesting to see. We can talk about this in a bit, how big of a game he does have. It's going to have to be a big one if Purdue wants to win, right? Purdue's chances are going to probably be nil if he's not catching 10 passes for over 100 yards with a couple big plays. So I think he will be warmly received by everybody on that sideline, except, of course, during the game.
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy, the same thing. Tyrone's not had as big a role as we expected this year. He got a little bit in the Wisconsin game, but it doesn't seem to be diminishing. But it'll be interesting to see. And again, like Jeff Brom said I think on Monday, this is kind of the way of the world now. I mean, this is just the way it's going to be. Eventually you're going to see a Purdue player at some other school at some point in time. It's making a big impact or making an impact maybe at another Big Ten school. That is the way of the world. Okay. So are you buying or selling over 100 yards in receiving for Charlie Jones? I mean, I think is that the key for Purdue to get enough points to get the job done?
I'm buying it. I say he goes over 100 yards, Alan. At least double-digit catches with the touchdown. I think he's going to have his best game of the year. One of his best games of the year. If I know his best game, one of his best games of the year. I really do. He's a veteran. The moment's not going to be too big for him. I talked about emotions. I think he's going to be able to rein those in. And everybody on the Purdue offense knows Charlie wants to excel. They're going to do all they can to help him out, too. So, I think he's going to have a big game, over 100 yards receiving on Saturday.
All right, a lot has been written about Spencer Petras, the Wisconsin, the Iowa quarterback, and his challenges. And he's not had big games necessarily against Purdue as well. Again, you're going to buy or sell him over 200 yards in passing against Purdue. How do you see that one playing out?
I'm going to buy it. I think he throws for over 200 yards. And I know he's had his issues. Again, a good game last week, but that was against Northwestern, maybe the worst team in the Big Ten. But, I talked earlier, this Purdue secondary hasn't exactly distinguished itself of late. Iowa does lack playmakers at receiver. And so that could maybe hold Petrus back a little bit, but I still think he's going to find success against a still shaky Purdue secondary, Alan. And it's a Purdue secondary. We're not sure he's going to line up on Saturday. We probably aren't going to know for sure until warm-ups. Corey Trice and Jamari Brown left the Wisconsin game with injuries. Sounds like they're probably going to be game time decisions. See how much they practice this week. And, I think the situation with Chris Jefferson remains very murky, Alan. Of course, the defensive back who left a few weeks ago to deal with some mental health issues. I kind of get the sense we may not see him again, but we're not positive on that for sure. So that's another factor as well. So yeah, they've got some issues back there. I think they're going to try to get Sanusi Kane and Bryce Hampton Ray to play some cornerback. Of course, Kane played cornerback in the bowl game and did well, but they want to have more flexibility with those guys too. So my point is, they're going to have to try to get a little bit creative here in the back end. With guys being able to play multiple positions to give them some other options. So having said all that and talked about the state of the secondary, again, I do think, Petrus is going to have some success throwing the football and will get over 200 yards passing.
He did get over 200 yards last week against Northwestern. As you use the term moribund for the Wildcats, 21 for 30, 220 yards, had a touchdown pass, and he is a big guy and you would think again with Purdue, some of Purdue's struggles that they'll try to throw it downfield. They haven't had a lot of success with that this year. Even Alex Padilla got in the game against Ohio State, and they were both listed as co number ones last week, and yet Petrus was the guy that became comfortable. He seems like he's been there for a long time, and he has. That part will be a storyline that again will determine a lot of whether Purdue's ability to get the job done. Run game also, Devin Maccabee talked about that you'll have something on the site or already have something on the site by the time this post on Tuesday evening. But Maccabee and company, he's been impressive. Had over 100 yards. 3 times this year, an all-time record for Purdue freshmen, and kind of approaching elite status, certainly in the last 15 years of Purdue running backs having over 100 yards in a season. Pretty tough team to run against. Iowa's going to put a lot of guys in the box. One would think they always seem to stop the run well. If they can put pressure on Aiden O'Connell, one would think also that Iowa will be able to slow him down. Buying or selling another 100-yard game for Devin? What do you think?
Well, I think I'm going to sell this one, Alan. I think this is an awfully good defense. And it sounds funny to say that Iowa would dare Purdue to throw the football. But like all defenses, you got to try to stop the run first, I think. And thank God for Devin Maccabee for Purdue fans, right? He actually gives that offense some legitimate teeth in the ground game, gives it some balance that coordinators do have to worry about. And boy, what a defense, what a front seven, 2 great linebackers led by Jack Campbell, one of the best linebackers in America, and strong front, just a strong front seven overall. So I think the sledding is going to be tough for Devin. But again, the positive there, Alan, they want to commit that extra guy. Well, I'm sure Payne Durham could find some holes in the back end. I'm sure Charlie Jones can. I'm sure TJ Sheffield. So I'm sure Aiden O'Connell will be glad to oblige an Iowa defense set up to maybe stop the run. So at this point, though, I still think for Devin, he could have a good game, but I guess I'm gonna sell the notion that he's going to crack the century mark.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think it's going to be tough to keep that streak going as well as he's played. And maybe it's going to be just how he gets, if he gets 70 yards, does he get it at the right time? Can Purdue continue to move the chains when it needs to on those 3rd and 3 situations, or get itself into a 2nd and short situation enough to be happy? One thing's for certain, Jeff Brom is even though, like I said, with the exception of the 2018 game, they've scored enough points to win, even in the win in 2017 that got Purdue to the Rose Bowl to the bowl game. The great passes to Anthony Mahungu. That really was a case of Brom noticed that it was Iowa had an injury in the secondary, and they went right after him in the second half and got the wounded gazelle, so to speak, and got the job done. So that's a credit to them. But I agree with you; it's going to be tough from that standpoint. All right, something lastly that we hit on last week. We don't want to repeat necessarily, but we were selling the fact that Purdue would get the job done in November. We'll throw another twist here. Some talk, I should say, about Purdue, Illinois being ESPN College Game Day, if you can believe that. Of course, Illinois plays Michigan State this week, a team it should beat at home. Though Michigan State gave out a pretty good effort against Michigan for the most part. Are you buying or selling that College Game Day is coming to Champaign on the 12th with what could be a huge showdown game between Purdue and Illinois? That's if Purdue can win this week.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what else is going on in the country.
That's a silly question. I understand.
The competition is. Some people think too, Alan, not to get off on a tangent, that since Big Ten sort of in bed with Fox, that and they're going to go away from ESPN. ESPN,
I think you're right there.
So I think they're going to probably do all they can. If there's even a game that's close to that matchup in Champaign, ESPN's going to default to that and go to the SEC game or whatever. So that would be a cool part of the environment if that was the case. But I guess I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe that's where the Fox big game crew goes, right?
Yeah, that's what
guys. Like they were at Purdue for the Penn State game. Maybe they're in Champaign. Maybe that's a noon game, right?
You're a smart guy, Tom, and
I love that. Kick that game.
You're reading the tea leaves.
That'll be 11 a.m.
You're reading the
time.
Yeah.
I'll be trekking down I-74. I'll be back in West Lafayette by 6 o'clock, Alan.
Yeah, and you have to stop at the beef house to get some rolls on the way back. But no, you're right. I think the big you're right, in the media landscape of today, of which we're having our own little experience with that. You're right. It'll be much more likely, maybe the Fox big noon game. That very well could happen if Purdue wins and both these teams.
If Illinois beats Purdue, then their game of Michigan becomes a really big game. So maybe everybody's saving their bullets for that game. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course, Purdue can get to the Big Ten championship game. There's a number of different scenarios that have to happen without beating Illinois, but they can't really get there realistically without beating Illinois, but they could lose another game. But I think Purdue will win at least 3 of its last 4. I'm still saying Purdue's going to be an underdog against November 12th at Champaign. But
yeah, they will.
Again, you've got Purdue has to come in and hold serve at home this week against the Iowa Hawkeyes, and it's never easy against those guys. Again, even Ohio State would say the same thing. Even though in a 54-10, that's as big a blowout as you're ever going to see in terms of a game that was as competitive as it was, at least early on. Iowa really had a defensive touchdown. Caused some problems in that game. You just have to be really, really careful and not to give Hawkeyes points from the defensive end, because points are going to be at a premium, I would think, this week. So
the only way you beat Iowa is by getting some big plays. You're not going to have 5-10 play drives that result in touchdowns against Iowa's defense. You're going to have to hit on a 50-yard pass, a long run for a touchdown, get a turnover, get a short field. It's just tough. I mean, you talked about the scores under Brom. He's only scored over 30 points one time against Iowa. He won that game, but it's rare, right? So you got to have big plays. That's not a great revelation. You need big plays every game, but especially against Iowa. And we've heard it already mentioned 100 times. Again, this is no great revelation, but you got to get a lead against Iowa, right?
Yeah. Man.
And you can't let that team just start handing the ball off and setting up play action passes. So again, I think we all know the recipe for Purdue's success. Can they do it? we'll see. There's going to be a great environment over there, not too far from where I'm at, just across Grand Street in Northwestern on Saturday. Yeah, Allen 8-4, 7-5. Purdue goes 3-1. They finish 8-4. They go 2-2. They go 7-5. The last two games of the year, they look like layups. I know coaches don't want to hear me say that, but Northwestern and Indiana are pretty bad. But if Purdue could split the next two, 8-4, Allen, it's not too bad. But still, everybody wants more. We know what's at stake here. And it begins Saturday. You got to take care of Iowa before you worry about Illinois. And still, Allen, I'll take my chances against Illinois. No offense, Tommy DeVito, Brett Bielema. I'll still take my chances lining up with Illinois and trying to win over there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It'd be fun if you're a Purdue fan to have that all on the line. And I agree with that. I think it's a game you can win, but you better take care of business on Saturday afternoon. All right, Tom, we're going to put this to a close. We've been buying and selling our little heads off here. Don't forget, if you want to subscribe to goldenblack.com, go to the On3 Network. We can give it to you for $1. Can you imagine Tom Dienhart for an entire year for $1? That's hard to imagine.
What can you buy for $1 today, Alan?
God, I don't think you can't even buy half a Fresca for $1. I mean,
I think you could check out 4 shopping carts at Aldi for $1. How about that?
There you go. And you have the opportunity to do that. Make sure you go to goldenblack.com. Just stick with that URL and you'll find us without any problem. And the offers is there while operators are standing by, so to speak. And we're excited about working with On3.
Supplies are limited.
Supplies are always limited. So also we got to thank Kyle Spray and our friends at Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group, our local farmland specialist. You can visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185 and talk to your local land expert today. Again, 765-587-3185. All right, Tom, thanks again. And we will be back next week with our Acre Pro buy sell. I'm sure we're going to throw much more wisdom your way. We promise that. So have a great week, everybody. And hey, by the way, one last thing, don't forget to join. Tom and I will be talking more, as if we don't get to talk enough, Thursday night at the Purdue Union Club Hotel, Boiler Up Bar. Visit us down there, but also if you can't get there, watch us on Facebook Live. That will be fun as well, Thursday night at the Union Club Hotel. All right, that's all it for promos. We're promoted out, my friend. Have a good one.